The ballroom glowed under the golden chandelier, polished floors reflecting decades of my service being celebrated tonight. Guests clinked glasses, my colleagues gave speeches, and my son stood proudly at the microphone. I smiled, though my eyes scanned the room more carefully than most men my age should have to. Tonight was supposed to be about peace, about stepping back after a lifetime of work. Yet something in my gut told me not to relax. At the corner table, my daughter-in-law, Rania, adjusted her glittering sari. Her smile was perfect, practiced, yet her hands moved with a precision that didn't belong to Joy. I noticed her lean over my glass, a subtle shake of her wrist, a tiny swirl with her spoon. Nobody else paid attention, but I did. A slow fire burned in my chest. Did she think I was too old to notice? That my eyes had lost their sharpness with age? When she turned away, I walked to the table, steady and unhurried, and lifted the glass. With the grace of a man giving a toast, I swapped it with the untouched one beside it. My fingers did not tremble. Moments later, Rania returned, her smile even brighter. She raised her brows when she saw me sip. But fate has a strange way of rewarding patience. 10 minutes later, one of the guests who had unknowingly taken my original glass staggered, his hand clutching his throat before collapsing. Gasps echoed through the hall. Panic spread, and in the chaos, I kept my gaze locked on her. Screams cut through the music. The orchestra stopped mid-note as the guest collapsed near the buffet table. People rushed to help him, shouting for a doctor. My son, Daniel, pushed through the crowd, shouting for an ambulance. I remained seated, the half-empty glass in my hand, calm as a man watching a storm he had predicted. My daughter-in-law, Rania, however, could not mask her panic. She pressed her hands dramatically to her face, playing the role of the concerned hostess, but her eyes, oh, those eyes, searched the room desperately, searching for me. When she found me still sipping, unharmed, her lips froze for the briefest moment before curving again into a mask of sympathy. The paramedics arrived swiftly, wheeling the guest away, his pulse faint, but alive. Whispers filled the hall. Heart attack. Maybe food poisoning. Stress, perhaps. Convenient excuses, but I knew better. Daniel returned to the stage, his voice trembling as he tried to calm the crowd. Please, everyone, let's not panic. We'll have the food and drinks tested immediately. It could be nothing more than indigestion. The audience settled uneasily, though their eyes flickered toward their plates. Meanwhile, Rania slipped quietly into the hallway. She thought she was unnoticed, but I rose just as silently and followed at a distance. Her phone was already at her ear when I turned the corner. No, it didn't work. Someone else drank it. Her whisper was sharp, frantic. I told you to make sure. She paused, realizing she wasn't alone. I let my presence be known by clearing my throat. Trouble with the caterer? I asked smoothly. Her face drained of color, then quickly rearranged itself into a smile. Father, you startled me. I was just checking on the ambulance. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. Next time, Rania, make sure you keep your hands steady when you stir someone's drink. Otherwise, even an old man like me might notice. Her eyes widened, a flicker of fear breaking through the mask. For the first time, the game had begun. The rest of the party dragged on, but the glow of celebration had dimmed. Conversations hushed, laughter thinned, and every clink of glass carried suspicion. I moved among the guests like nothing had happened, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. Yet, I could feel Rania's gaze trailing after me, sharp as a knife. Later, when most of the crowd had dispersed, I found myself alone in the study, the mahogany shelves lined with books, the ticking clock on the wall, the scent of old leather. It was my sanctuary. I poured myself a fresh glass of water and sat back in the armchair. The door creaked open. Rania slipped inside, her heels clicking softly against the floor. Father, she began, her voice honey-sweet. "You must be tired. Such a long night and so much excitement." I gestured to the chair opposite mine. "Sit, child. You look restless yourself." She sat, crossing, her legs neatly, her hands folded too tightly in her lap. "I only worry for you. That accident at the party could have been dangerous." I chuckled lightly. "Accidents do happen, but sometimes they tell us more about people than they realize." Her eyes flickered, but she held her smile. "You've always been observant." Silence stretched between us, heavy and deliberate. I let it linger, watching her shift uncomfortably. Finally, I leaned forward. "You know, Rania, I spent 40 years in my profession studying people, detecting lies, reading intentions, recognizing patterns. Do you truly think I would miss the flick of a wrist? The faint clink of powder dissolving?" Her lips parted slightly, a sharp inhale betraying her calm. Then she laughed softly, shaking her head. "You must be mistaken. Maybe age is clouding your judgment." I smiled, but my gaze never wavered. "Age sharpens the mind, my dear, when survival is at stake." For a fleeting second, her mask cracked. Fear flickered in her eyes before she stood abruptly. "Good night, Father. Get some rest." As the door closed behind her, I leaned back, a quiet satisfaction warming me. She knew I knew, and now she would wonder every moment what my next move might be. The following morning, the house was unnaturally quiet. My son had left early for work, leaving only Rania and me under the same roof. She moved about the kitchen with the grace of a seasoned actress, pouring tea, slicing fruit, humming a tune too sweet to be real. "Good morning, Father," she greeted, setting a tray before me. "You didn't sleep well, did you?" I could hear you pacing. I stirred my tea but didn't sip. "A restless night. Memories keep me awake." Her smile flickered. "Memories or suspicions?" I met her gaze steadily. "Both, perhaps." She leaned forward, her eyes glinting with challenge. "You're clever, Father. I admire that. But cleverness can become dangerous when it breeds paranoia." I didn't answer. Instead, I reached into my pocket and placed a small silver locket on the table. "This was found near the balcony last night. Funny, isn't it? How it matches the chain you're wearing now?" Her hand instinctively went to her neck before she caught herself. A flash of irritation crossed her face. "You enjoy playing these games, don't you?" "Only because you started them," I replied softly. The tension thickened until Daniel's voice echoed from the doorway. "What's going on here?" Rania instantly softened, slipping into her role as the dutiful wife. "Nothing, darling. Father and I were just talking about the party." Daniel smiled warmly, oblivious. He kissed her forehead and squeezed my shoulder. "You two are my world. Promise me you'll take care of each other while I'm gone." As soon as he left, her eyes sharpened again, daggers hidden behind a smile. "He trusts me completely. That's something you'll never take from me." I leaned back, studying her. Trust is fragile. One crack, and it shatters. That evening, another gathering was arranged. Close family this time, to assure everyone that the retirement incident was behind us. The table gleamed with fine china, crystal glasses filled with red wine. Rania raised her glass first, her voice melodic. "To Father, for his years of hard work and wisdom." Everyone clapped. I raised my glass as well, but paused. My eyes locked on hers. Then, without a word, I set my glass down untouched. She froze for the briefest second, just enough for me to know. Daniel frowned. "Father, aren't you going to drink?" I smiled gently. "I think tonight I'll simply enjoy the company." The room relaxed again, but the war was no longer hidden. It was alive, pulsing between us like fire waiting for air. And in that silence, Rania realized something terrifying. Every move she made, I would see. Every lie she spoke, I would hear. And every trap she set, I would spring back on her. The game was no longer hers to control. The following days unfolded like a play with only two actors truly aware of the script. Rania and I danced around each other, she with her carefully rehearsed smiles, I with my measured silences. Daniel, caught between us, remained blind. He saw only harmony where cracks widened, believed in peace where war had already begun. 1. Evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Rania entered my study carrying a tray of tea. Her perfume arrived before she did. Cloyingly sweet, almost suffocating. "Father, you spend too much time in this room," she said, setting the tray down. "You should relax. Let your mind rest. You've earned it." I studied the steaming cup before me. The aroma was faintly bitter, not quite the blend I knew. I smiled inwardly, but did not touch it. Instead, I asked, "Tell me, Rania, do you believe in legacy?" Her brows arched. "Legacy?" "Yes," I said softly. "The mark we leave behind. Some build, some destroy, some inherit, others steal." For the briefest moment, her mask slipped, just enough to reveal the greed burning beneath. She quickly regained herself, lifting her own cup and sipping gracefully. "I believe legacy is what survives us, Father, and survival is everything." Leaned back. Wise words, though survival often comes at a cost. That night, I pretended to sleep early. In truth, I watched from the shadows of the upstairs landing as Rania moved quietly through the house. She stopped at the medicine cabinet, her movements swift and precise. From her pocket, she pulled a small vial, unscrewed it, and tipped its contents into a bottle labeled blood pressure tablets. The click of the cap echoed like a gunshot in the silence. She didn't know I was watching. The next morning, she handed me my pills at breakfast, her eyes gleaming with false concern. "Don't forget these, Father. Your health is precious." I turned the bottle in my hand, then set it down without taking any. "Strange," I murmured. "I don't remember them smelling quite so sharp." Her fingers tightened on her napkin. "Perhaps age dulls your senses?" "Or perhaps," I said, locking eyes with her, "it sharpens them." Daniel entered at that exact moment, breaking the tension. "Everything all right?" he asked cheerfully. "Perfectly," Rania answered quickly, her voice sweet as syrup. But I saw it now, clearer than ever, her desperation growing, her traps becoming reckless. The walls were closing in on her, though she still believed she held control. After breakfast, I placed a quiet call to an old colleague at the lab. "I need a favor," I said simply. "Discreet testing, I'll send a sample." Because while Rania played with poison, I played with patience. And patience, I knew, always outlasted desperation. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, painting golden streaks across the floor. To anyone else, the house looked peaceful, but beneath the quiet, a storm brewed, an unspoken war between Rania and me. I slipped the tampered pills into a small evidence bag and sealed it. Later that afternoon, under the pretense of taking a walk, I visited my old colleague, Dr. Kamal, who still ran a private laboratory. His eyes widened when I handed him the bottle. "Do you think," he began. "I don't think," I interrupted. "I know, just tell me exactly what's inside." He nodded gravely. "Give me a day." That night, back at home, the game intensified. Rania prepared dinner herself, sending the maids away. Her hands moved swiftly as she served, her voice warm, her eyes watchful. Every spoonful she placed on my plate was a test, every glance a challenge. "Eat, Father," she urged sweetly. "You hardly touched your lunch." I lifted a forkful of rice, examining it subtly. The grains glistened too much, almost unnaturally. I lowered it back to the plate, feigning fatigue. I don't have much appetite these days. Her jaw tightened, though she disguised it with a smile. That's not healthy. Daniel worries about you. I chuckled softly. Daniel worries about everything, except the right things. The moment hung heavy between us. She knew I was taunting her. I knew she couldn't afford to break character. Later, as Daniel and Rania prepared for bed, I stood outside their door listening. His muffled voice was tender, tired. You're the best thing that's happened to me, Rania. Father just needs time to adjust. Promise me you'll be patient with him. Her reply was silk wrapped around steel. Of course, darling. I'll always take care of him. The way she said take care chilled the air. The next afternoon, Dr. Kamal called. His idiao. Voice was low, urgent. You were right. The pills contain traces of digitalis. In that dosage, it could stop a heart within days. My grip tightened around the phone. Thank you, Kamal. Keep this between us. For now. I hung up and stared out the window, where Rania tended to the garden with practiced grace. She looked, the picture of innocence, sunlight on her hair, watering can in hand. No one watching would ever believe she was weaving death into my days, but now I had proof. Still, timing was everything. If I confronted her too soon, she'd twist it, cry, innocence, paint me as a paranoid old man. Daniel would believe her, he always did. No, I needed more. Evidence that no denial could erase. That evening, I moved quietly through the house until I reached her vanity. Hidden beneath perfume bottles and silk scarves, I found what I was looking for, a small black pouch. Inside, 2 more vials, half empty, labeled only with numbers, and beside them a folded note. Half a dose daily, slow, untraceable. My blood ran cold. I slipped the note into my pocket and returned everything else exactly as I'd found it. When I turned, she was standing in the doorway, her silhouette sharp against the light. Looking for something, Father? She asked. Softly, her lips curved in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I straightened, my own mask firmly in place. Just making sure the house is safe. Her gaze lingered on me, calculating. Then she stepped aside, gesturing with mock politeness. By all means, safety first. As I walked past her, I realized the danger had shifted. She knew I was hunting her, and that made her even more lethal. This was no longer just a silent key, it was war. The house was no longer a home, it had become a battlefield. Every shared meal, every polite conversation, every glance exchanged across the table carried an undercurrent of venom. Rania had grown bolder since catching me near her vanity. She no longer bothered to disguise her hostility behind endless sweetness. Instead, she sharpened her words like blades. Father, you seem restless these days, she said one morning, pouring tea into my cup. Her hands were steady, but her eyes glittered with defiance. Maybe it's age, or maybe... She leaned closer, her whisper like poison. Maybe it's guilt. I met her stare evenly. The guilty one rarely sleeps soundly, Rania. Tell me, how do you sleep? Her smile faltered for the briefest second before she turned away. I kept my own moves hidden. The lab results and the note from her vanity were locked in my desk drawer, but paper was fragile. So I went a step further. That evening, under cover of darkness, I installed a small camera in the kitchen, another in the study, and one discreetly in the medicine cabinet. If she moved again, this time the world would see it. The very next night, the trap nearly sprung itself. Daniel had invited a few friends over for dinner. The house was lively again, laughter echoing down the halls, glasses clinking. For the first time in weeks, it felt almost normal, until I saw Rania slip away from the table, carrying a decanter of wine. I excused myself and followed quietly in the kitchen. I watched through the crack of the door as she pulled the small black pouch from beneath her apron. She uncorked the vial, tipping a clear liquid into the wine with practiced precision. "Drink, old man," she muttered under her breath. "Drink and sleep forever." My hand tightened on the doorknob, every muscle screaming to confront her, but I forced myself still. Patience, proof, timing. If I exposed her now, she'd deny everything, blame the maid, accuse me of senility. So I waited until she returned to the table with the wine, her face aglow with feigned hospitality. "A toast," she declared, filling glasses. I lifted mine, meeting her eyes across the table. She watched me, waiting, expecting. Slowly, deliberately, I raised the glass to my lips, then set it back down untouched. Her smile froze. Moments later, Daniel took a sip instead. My heart lurched. But fate favored me again. He coughed once, grimaced, then pushed the glass away. "Strange taste," he said casually. "Maybe the bottle went bad." Relief washed over me, though I kept my face impassive. Rania laughed lightly, too quickly. "Oh, perhaps. I'll fetch another." That night, when the house grew silent, I retrieved the hidden camera from the kitchen. The footage was clear. Rania pouring the vial into the decanter, muttering her deadly intent. It was the proof I needed. Still, the weight in my chest remained. Daniel was blind to it all, bound by love. If I presented the evidence, would he believe me, or would his heart shield her once more? As I replayed the video, I felt a presence at the door. Rania stood there watching me, her face pale, her smile brittle. "You've been busy, Father," she said softly. I closed the laptop, my expression unreadable. "And you've been careless." Her voice dropped, a whisper edged with rage. "Do you think you can ruin me? Do you think anyone will believe you over me?" I leaned forward, my tone calm, but cutting. "They won't need to believe me, Rania. They'll believe what they see, and now they'll see everything." For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. The war was nearing its end, and she knew it. The house buzzed with preparations that Sunday afternoon. Daniel had insisted on a family gathering. "To celebrate peace," he said, blind to the storm brewing beneath his own roof. Guests filled the living room, laughter spilling from every corner. Crystal glasses caught the light, silverware gleamed, and Rania moved among them with her usual grace, a perfect hostess draped in silk. To anyone else, she was charm embodied. But I knew better, and tonight, everyone else would too. When dinner was served, I rose slowly from my chair, holding a glass of wine aloft. "A toast," I began, my voice steady, commanding silence. "To family, to loyalty, to truth." Eyes turned toward me. Rania's smile widened, though I saw her knuckles whiten around her fork. "Before we drink," I continued, "I have something to share." I placed the laptop on the table and, with a single keystroke, the screen lit up. The hidden camera. Footage played in stark clarity, Rania in the kitchen, the vial in her hand, the words spilling from her lips. "Drink, old man. Drink and sleep forever." The room fell deathly silent. Daniel froze, his glass halfway to his mouth. "Rania, what is this?" She shot to her feet, her voice trembling but sharp. "Lies! He's twisting everything! He's losing his mind!" But the evidence was undeniable. The video played again, her own voice damning her more than any accusation could. Gasps rippled through the guests. I looked at her, my tone calm, almost pitying. "You see, Rania, truth doesn't need belief. It reveals itself." Her mask shattered. "You ruined everything," she screamed, her composure breaking. "It should have been mine. All of it. The house, the fortune, the respect. You were supposed to fade away." Daniel staggered back, betrayal carved deep into his face. You tried to kill him?" His voice cracked, disbelief turning to horror. Rania's eyes darted wildly around the room, searching for an escape, for someone, anyone, to side with her, but she found only cold stares and whispered judgment. Finally, she collapsed back into her chair, her defiance draining away. "I did it for us," she whispered to Daniel, "for our future." But Daniel shook his head, tears brimming. "Not like this, Rania. Never like this. The authorities were called, and when they led her away, her silk dress looked like a costume stripped of its power. The perfect daughter-in-law, the charming hostess, gone, replaced by the woman who had shown her true face at last. The guests left in uneasy silence, their laughter swallowed by the weight of what they'd witnessed. Only Daniel and I remained, the fire crackling in the hearth. He turned to me, voice heavy with shame. "Father, I didn't see it. I should have protected you." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "You saw what she wanted you to see. Don't blame yourself. Deception thrives in trust. But now, it's over." For the first time in weeks, I felt the air in the house shift, lighter, freer, as though the walls themselves had exhaled. As I retired to my study that night, I poured myself a glass of untouched wine, savoring its warmth. The war was finished. The trap had closed, and I was still standing.